Hello everyone and welcome so much for joining us on this Monday afternoon. I'm Natalie, this is Rupert. He's been asleep on my lap so far, so hopefully he'll go back to being asleep in a moment.
No, he's going to be too excited listening to these interviews.
Yes. And this is Claire.
Hi everybody.
So this is our first Los Angeles Liftoff Filmmaker interviews, and I'm very excited to be inviting our three filmmakers with us here today. So without further ado, should we introduce them?
Let's say hi.
Hi guys, so here we have Oliver, Chantel and Ben. Welcome.
Hi guys.
Hi.
So Ben, Ollie, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about your project and who you are and what type of filmmaker you are?
Sure. I'm Ollie Anderson. I am the director and creator of Bunkers. Bunkers is an animated adventure comedy that your entire family can watch. It's about a character named Starlo von Sourdough who's seeking the treasure of eternal life during the COVID-19 global pandemic. It's a homemade episode in a series about the rules of golf.
Cool. Sounds very appropriate for these times. Okay, and Chantel, why don't you do the same? Introduce yourself and your filmmaking style.
Hi everyone, my name is Chantel Rochester. I am the founder of Ida Rose production company, and I am the writer, director and starring in the film called Phoenix, #102. And it is about whether love travels through time. So two women in 1770, they meet and they have unfortunate circumstances, but every single time they die, they are confined to that room and they awake in a new time.
Wow.
Amazing.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
And Ben, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Hi everyone. Firstly, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. My name is Ben Probert. I'm an actor and filmmaker from Berkshire in the UK. I work for a production company called Lander Pictures, where we make lots of short films, and we're making a feature at the moment. This is my directional debut, Rainbow Trout, which is currently available to you in the New Voices Shorts 2 category.
Nice.
I don't want to tell you too much about the film. It's a relationship comedy, just the ins and outs of little problems you have in relationships.
Well, I look forward to finding out a little bit more about your debut and a little bit more about the film. But should we move over to the radio style now? And we'll find out a little bit more from Ollie.
Absolutely.
Cool. So, Ollie, we sent you some questions earlier in the week, which you've prepped up, I hope. So the first one is literally about your filmmaking goals. So, why am I going? I always go like this.
Well, why don't we start with something maybe specific to this project or career as a whole, in terms of something that you've had to overcome, and then let's look to the future.
Yes.
So why don't we first start with, what have you had to overcome, either with Bunkers specifically, or maybe just, your filmmaking career in general?
Sure. With Bunkers, I made Bunkers at home during quarantine, during the sort of COVID-19 experience. So being alone, doing the stop animation, doing the photography, the voices, the narration, the story, all the components was definitely a challenge. Building the sets, absolute fun, but I wouldn't change anything in the world for that experience. But definitely, kind of moving forward, I kind of thrive in environments where I can work with people, and I was just super excited when I was able to get an art director to make my poster and help me with a sort of press release as well. And it's just something I really, really love is working with people. And it's an absolute blast to make this. And I'm looking forward to making more of them.
This is the thing with this industry, and at the moment, I mean, even my housemate who works in publishing, she said the other day, this is not an industry you go in to sit on your own and work on your own.
No, absolutely not.
So I know exactly what you mean when you say, you want to be working with people, so that's been a challenge. But also must have been a steep learning curve in a good way as well, sort of seeing a project through entirely on yourself, seeing everything. I don't know, what do you think was the biggest thing you took away from it?
Gosh, this has just been such a rewarding and almost therapeutic experience, to challenge yourself and and see how far you can go. It's just been so rewarding, you know, in that respect. And then the opportunities that I think it's been creating, and really trying to help not just like the golf industry in itself, because, but also anybody that's, you know, looking for a job and things like that. So I'm really excited about this project because I believe it's going to open up some doors, not just for myself, but other filmmakers. And that's just kind of the hope, is that this is going to be that sort of seed that's gonna grow into a nice little farm. And really just looking forward to all the opportunities for people to meet people and say, hey, I see that you had, you know, some audio issues in here. This is what Ashton Kutcher did. And it's kind of a funny story with Ashton Kutcher. I don't want to go too far into it, but, you know, everybody's kind of struggling through having to adapt. And, you know, I think Ashton made his sound using basically a sleeping bag for going over himself with a microphone. And so it's just sort of all the creative ways that people are learning to pivot. And this is just one of those wonderful, wonderful opportunities to, you know, just accept that I'm going to fail a lot. And that's the beauty, is how can I problem solve?
Amazing.
So a question's just come in here from Sunny asking, how did you create the stereo for the characters? The Starlo for the characters. They're wonderful.
Oh, Starlo. Oh, I'm not on camera right now, but, you know, Starlo, that was sort of a iterative thing. I really wanted to create a character that, you know, anybody could find relevance, or anybody could connect with. He's the worst golfer of the year to start with. Second of all, you know, I didn't want to make him sort of just something that anybody could sort of almost identify with in this character. It's not necessarily the wonderful and like amazing things he can do, but sort of like the flaws that we can all kind of gravitate towards. You know, so building him was sort of an interesting experience, because there was a lot of failures in that one, still is. And I think, you know, with that one, really started off just with some tinfoil, and then kind of building with another layer called FOMO. It's a very lightweight material. And then I was importing, I have, my favorite clay actually comes from the UK. It's called Nuplast Plasticine. It's, and anyway, so I put that on there, and it became sort of this simple thing that I was able to manipulate and mold, and be able to kind of make, you know, the mouth changes and things like that. So happy to share more about that if you have any other deeper questions.
That's amazing.
I just find the whole process of this sort of thing so interesting. So obviously you worked on this project by yourself for the majority of the time. How long did it take you to make this film?
From beginning to end, it was February. So starting in February was doing the research, so like pre-production, and then end of post-production was in June, like June 1st. Okay. Yeah. Wow. But it didn't take too long to shoot. It was about 6 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, that is a long time when you consider how long the film is, but when it comes to animation, everything is so precise, and that's what makes it so wonderful.
So what previous experience did you have in either like animation as a whole, or in like model making, the art design section of it, or was this
well, I guess
new?
It's fun. It's, in fairness, most of my background, I was sort of grew up on the front side of the camera as kind of a child actor. Okay. I was on a television show, guest starred on CSI Las Vegas episode called Bad Words. I was in a film with John Malkovich and Angelica Houston called Art School Confidential. I kind of gave that up after college because I wanted to finish college. It's only so much. It was really rewarding to work, but it's just so hard to make it. The amount of money that you're making is just not much, and to have as many jobs as you do trying to make it, it's rough. So I went back to school, and my kind of business career took off. And then, you know, most of the filmmaking that I do actually ends up being more commercial and for product marketing purposes and sales content. And so this was kind of like my first chance and opportunity to do something that wasn't for another company or for another corporation. Mm-hmm. You know, that said, I do have an Instagram account called San Francisco Toys. And I really love blurring the lines between reality and sort of a super world. And so I would take toys into extreme conditions, for example, in helicopters or 30 feet underwater, and photograph them. And so I kind of all this preparation of learning the goods and the bads with all the different toys that are out there. I wanted to create something that was going to be far superior, that could sort of stand up to, working in outside conditions, not necessarily in a studio. When I shot this, most of it was actually shot outside for bunkers. And so, I look forward to sort of one of the next episodes coming up, where I'm going after a Guinness Book of World Records for deepest animation in the ocean.
Cool. Actually, talking about shooting outside, there's a question here from Olivia who asks, I was wondering how Ollie animated the sand in bunkers.
Oh, good question. Little by little. I think that was one of the most time-consuming practices. But when I looked on the internet for really great sand animation, I love animation. I love looking at claymation, animation, sand animation. But I hadn't seen any sand animation done in this way. Usually, I've seen it over a light box. And so this was kind of a neat opportunity to do something a little different that I hadn't seen. And it also kind of made some opportunities to do some kind of trippy things. And that was actually a pretty fun experience too. But really, it was just sort of little by little, and using the lights. How could I kind of make and tell a story with and draw the eyes, sort of like staging the situation with sand. It was fun. Learned a lot of cool things.
Yeah, it sounds amazing as well.
Amazing.
Cool.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Let's move on to the others before and then come back and sort of look to the future for all of you. So I think if we head over to Chantal, share with us the hurdles that you've had to overcome.
Okay, probably two. One, I guess for Phoenix, it was quite important to pick the right team for that. Because in the industry, sometimes there can be racial and sexual bias. So because of the context of it, it was important to kind of get the crew right. It was luckily enough before COVID. So we rushed to do that really just before catching, before we knew we were going to go into lockdown. We still kind of stuck to some rules in terms of transference, etc., because we just felt it was important as we were still coming to a pandemic. And yeah, that was one of the biggest hurdles for me, is to just make sure that everybody upset kind of felt the vision and wanted to work towards that premise. And it was a lovely team we had. And then the second thing is trying to direct and act. Yeah, that was my first directing debut, and wow, I had no idea. I had a really good first AD and DOP, so I visually, basically I photograph all of my shots with the actors before we shoot, so I had a very good idea of what the visuals were.
Is that to create the storyboards in a sense?
Yes, yeah, essentially, because I knew I'd be on the other side of the camera. It was quite important to get the framing and the shots right for me. So I literally had to do a proper vision, but I prefer to do it with the actors in place. So then it makes it much easier for...
I guess it's like a mini rehearsal as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of how it looked. And literally they were spot on to what the imagery of the film turned out. So yeah, super, super happy. But yeah, I needed to have a good first day, and Tony done really, really well, just kind of making sure that my vision and it was quite difficult turning around the monitor every time just so I could see the last before we went into it and stuff. But yeah, no, it really, really worked. I'm really happy.
Yeah, do you know what? I've never actually heard of anyone who's worked in that way as an actor and a director, and I actually think that's really, really interesting and could be very helpful for a lot of filmmakers that we meet, because they're often the director and an actor within their film as well. So I might take that piece of advice and share it with others, if that's okay with you.
So,
yeah,
so was this sort of in plain clothes the day before, or was this sort of like once everyone was in hair and makeup? Like how far did that work? Yeah. So
this worked like 3 days before, and actually we were actually on another shoot at that time, and I was producing on that one, because that's usually what I do for the company. So I was producing on that one, and then I had kind of a couple of hours, so I asked all the actors to meet me on that set, and we kind of locked off a corner of it, and bedroom wise, and I had a photographer there literally just taking photographs of every single shot, and then I'd literally get somebody else to step in as me, and I'd take photographs of each individual shot until I kind of found the shot that I wanted, and then I basically put that into a document. for my first and DOP, so that they could actually see the framing of shots and stuff.
So did you produce Phoenix, Chantal?
I did as well.
Yeah, because when you said sort of getting your team together, so I assumed that meant
yes.
produced it as well.
So yeah, Ida Rose, we produce shorts, feature films. Last one was on Netflix that we did. But this was the first thing that was, I guess, I'd written and then also chose to direct. So it felt like a different, excuse me, a completely different area of comfortability than I'm used to. As you know, producers are usually in the office most of the time, organizing and, you know, whether it be seeking money or, you know, putting the project together or helping people realize their visions. Whereas this time it was actually my vision and I'd wrote it. So it felt real different being and understanding aspect ratios and, you know, a different level of filmmaking. You don't realize that the different jobs actually include totally different things.
You mentioned there that you managed to get your previous short film onto Netflix. Is that correct?
Feature film.
Oh, feature film. Oh, I was going to say, I haven't seen too many short films on Netflix. I was going to be like, please
hopefully
tell our filmmakers how they
do. We'd all want to be on there.
Yeah.
So our film Two Graves, we shot, that came onto Netflix about a year ago. It was shot in Sunderland. It's an action thriller. So yeah, if you do get time, click on Netflix on Two Graves, the word TWO, and have a look. We produced it and I starred in it also.
Oh, amazing.
Very
Cool. Yeah. Just because I know that it's a lot of filmmakers' dreams to get onto Netflix. What was your experience like, or the process in getting that film on there? Or how did it work out for you?
Yeah, it was a bit of a crazy one for this, actually, because it was our first in-house feature film. I've worked on a lot, but not produced from our company. It was the first thing we actually did as a company. When we first kind of was talking to different sales agents and so forth, everybody was like, you know, this is low budget. It was under 500K. And everybody was like, you're never going to get onto Netflix. So I sat with the director because originally our company concentrates on diversity in front and behind the camera. And when I originally got the script from the director, Gary Young, he wrote the film Harry Brown. The leads were male. So I kind of said to him, well, you know, we can't do this as our first film. And he literally sat with me and we went through it. And I was like, well, what about if we make them female? You know, and we realized that created a lot of different arcs within it. And then we said we wanted to go for Netflix. So I said, well, you know, we kind of basically took like 2 weeks literally binging on Netflix content just to see the types of films that they obtain and the level of rawness and, you know, to make sure the do's and don'ts, we don't do too much swearing or too less, you know, all of those kind of things. And we felt that we had the right combination. So when we did it and we shot it, I think our sales agent was like, well, no, we're not putting this in front of Netflix. We don't think they're going to take low budget film, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I was adamant. We made it for Netflix. You have to approach them. After a little bit of an argument, we finally pushed them to do it. And within about 30 days, we had an offer. So literally that was kind of how it got onto Netflix.
Do you mind sharing what the production company is called that you work for?
Ida Rose.
Ida Rose. Awesome.
Yeah, Ida Rose. Ida-Rose when you do on webwise.com.
Thank you. And who represented you? Who was the sales agent?
Our sales agent was a movie house on this. Yeah, we've just newly signed. We were actually, before the pandemic, supposed to go to South Africa and shoot an action thriller. 1 week before we were about to leave, unfortunately, everything got locked down, travel got clocked. So we were like, no. So now we kind of wiped our tears. I think it's scheduled for next year. So fingers crossed we'll be able to do that. And our sales agent for that is Studio Soho.
Cool.
Well done.
Well, yeah, huge congratulations. Yeah. And it shows, like, doing your research as well. So many people skip that part and they just go, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to make.
Well, you've just done that example of who is your audience, doing your research is the most valuable advice you can give anyone. And hearing it from a filmmaker directly goes to show, if your dream is to get onto Netflix, what did Netflix make? That's your answer.
Yep.
So
definitely.
Thank you for sharing. But let's get back to Phoenix and the short film that's taking part in the Los Angeles Film Festival. So we were talking about diversity within the cast.
Mhm.
But do you have
Yes.
any moments that happened on set that you wish never happened, or that you would do differently, or was it quite a stress-free shoot?
No, I think it was more stressful for me because of the directing and acting part.
Yeah.
I think I will rethink that next time and do either one. No, the shoot went really well. I did have something on another shoot we did, actually more recently, during the COVID time. And again, we had to deal with a lot of, I think the industry, which is coming to light now anyways, there's a lot of bias when you're on set dealing, and I know women have been fighting to, have more representation in film as, directors, DOPs, and I can see it starting to make a bit of a shift. But I guess, being a female and also running the company at the same time, I guess people always expect somebody else to turn up or for you to report to somebody else. And sometimes on set that can be quite agitating if people are kind of disregarding what you're saying, which sometimes can jeopardize the films, or sometimes in terms of meaning you have to pull productions because of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
As you say, at least the tide is turning.
Yes, and that's a good thing.
We are.
And that's nothing bad to the men, because we need to all work together. I work with both, and I balance diversity, whether it be sex, race, disability. We try and balance it all across everything we do, so that we're trying to give representation behind and in front of the camera to as many as we can.
Amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I look forward to hearing a little bit more about your kind of future goals and the company's ethos, but we'll come back to that. Why don't we move on to Ben, who's been waiting patiently as we've been talking about Oliver and Chantel's projects. Ben, why don't you maybe do like a little refresh about what your project was, and again tell us about how the shoot went and the problems that you overcame during your production.
Okay, Rainbow Trout is it was a film that I basically sat and wrote one evening, thinking about just stories I had heard from relationships of friends, and how little moments can actually be funny, even though people take them very seriously at the time. So I just sort of wrote this script, and I instantly wanted to make it. I then decided that I wanted to direct as well, which I've never done before. So the same as Chantel, that was a very different experience for me, because I was acting and producing and directing. But I would say the actual shoot itself was a really great, enjoyable experience. I don't know, once you really get into it and you start sort of seeing everything move around, you just sort of, everything falls into place. And I was very lucky to have Luke Tedder, who was the DOP. He actually directs a lot of the films that we work on, and he really understood my vision, so it was helpful to have him behind the camera.
Yeah, that's something that is super, super, super important, and we say it repeatedly, that if you are a first-time director or a first-time filmmaker, then having a DOP that you either know personally and can understand you, or having a DOP that is very experienced and can understand your vision is key to getting the style and look of the piece that you desire and the stuff that you're imagining. So thank you for sharing that advice. No
problem at all. And yeah, obviously the shoot went great, except for one small point. It was a 3-day shoot. We had the location for 3 days, and there was no possible way of us getting it again, so we had to get everything finished. And there is an action sequence in it, which I hadn't really considered how much work would go into that action sequence, and it ran over. And in this location, we were stuck with, the heating was basically broken, and it was a summer day. We had all of the windows blacked out. It was just a sweat box, and it was incredibly uncomfortable for everyone. So every few minutes, the actors all wanted to just run outside and just get a bit of air, and then had to come back in, and it really made it drag. But other than that, I think everything went quite well.
Cool. So how did you find the experience of directing and acting in the piece?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I would jump back in to do it again anytime soon. It was just it was a learning experience for me. I'm happy to say that I've done that, and now I can just carry on doing, because obviously I produce, and that's something that I do a lot, and I think I'm happy just to stick with that.
Yeah. So you chose comedy, which is one of the harder genres to fulfill. Why comedy? Is that an area that you work in often, or is this just something new for you?
Oh, it was very new. We do quite dark films, usually dramas and sci-fi. But again, I just wanted to do something different. And because I had heard these stories from different people, I just thought there is funny moments in there that you're not actually seeing. So I just had to put it on paper. So that's how it all came about.
We do say we love seeing some more light-hearted films, don't we? Because when you're putting together a program, collating a program like that, it is nice to have a variation. You can't put people into a 90-minute program of shorts and them all be very, very dark and intense.
And hard-hitting,
Yeah, so for festival programmers, it is really nice to come across a comedy, a music video, an animation done well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, no, thank you. But then, the hardest part of filmmaking, I find, is not actually getting the film made, because obviously I work with a great team of creative, like-minded people. So the process of production is always an enjoyable one. It's what comes after, which is the struggle. And this is why what Chantal said was actually really quite helpful. And that's getting your work seen and achieving that engagement with your work. I think as filmmakers, we all have put a lot of work into a project that ends up sort of gathering dust on YouTube.
Sure.
And I've never managed to crack the whole networking thing, unfortunately. And that's a problem I've always come up against with every project I've worked on. So with having a film available in a festival like this one and being invited to this interview is hopefully going to supply that engagement. So thank you very much.
And if you want some more tips on that, Liftoff actually did just release 10 ways you can network at an online film festival, which is on our YouTube channel. So give that a view.
Excellent.
And hopefully some of those points sit with you. But the most important thing is to understand, again, who your audience is, and then target those companies that align with your ethos. And then reach out, and don't be afraid to reach out. Chantal had an amazing example of pestering her sales agent until she got the reaction out of him, and then officially landing that Netflix deal. So you need to know exactly,
which is an amazing story.
Yeah, and so it just goes to show you need to know exactly who your audience is, who you need to reach out to, and then not give up. The thing is, this is business to business, so you should never take it personally. And as a producer, of course, you know that, but it's just, it can be quite hard especially for fresh filmmakers or for new filmmakers to battle against this industry, because it can be brutal.
Yeah, no, exactly.
At the end of the day, it's business.
It is all business.
So I think it's quite nice then if we go reverse way, as we're talking to Ben and we're on this topic about networking and film festivals. What is the goal with this project, and what is your kind of 5-year goal?
What is my 5-year goal?
Oh, that sounds like an interview question, doesn't it? Like a proper sit-down interview question. Or where do you see your career going?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've just gone into production on our second self-funded feature film. So I guess 5 years from now, I would hope that we will be securing funding from elsewhere, or have at least made something back from this one so we can further invest in our next. We will be going the festival route with it, so time will tell, I guess. We'll just have to keep our fingers crossed that people actually enjoy our work.
What genre is the feature?
It's a sci-fi.
Okay.
Nice.
Our last feature was a sci-fi as well. Mm-hmm. It was a very low budget. We made it on 20,000, but it's on Amazon, which we're happy with. Obviously, couldn't go as far as Netflix, but we want to obviously take this one on the festival route and see if we can get some traction with it. Have
you heard of a company called Dust?
I have, yes. They actually wanted us to break up our last feature film and make it into episodes.
Yeah, I would definitely, and then obviously submit it to Dust and see what their thoughts were.
Okay.
I recommend it. We've had quite a few filmmakers come through the Liftoff network who screened with us and then they've landed on Dust. Not necessarily directly through us, but it's done the festival route and then it now sits on Dust's YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
The hits that they get on those videos is insane.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Some of them are in their multi-millions, I want to say.
Yeah.
So just having something like that in your portfolio will then massively help you to get a bigger funding for the feature films, which means that you can go that extra step further in every area for that feature. So if that's what your partner is suggesting, if that's what you mentioned, then I would definitely look into that a little bit more and use it as an advantage. I mean, it must be quite hard to get onto that platform regardless, but I would definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, no, I mean, they were very interested in it, and they would, they said we had to obviously break it into more of a couple of episodes rather than a feature film, which is something that we must look at. But it's a bit of a process to obviously break a feature up. So we will definitely consider it and look into it.
Cool. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's really exciting.
And if all that fails, I'll just be happy to continue creating new content, because that's obviously what we love doing. That's why we're here.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
Nice. Okay. Do you have any other final thoughts or anything else you'd like to mention, Ben?
I just hope everyone enjoys the film. Again, seeing those moments that hopefully a lot of people have experienced at some point in their life in old relationships. And the twist at the end, which I won't give away too much, but I had to add a twist. So
cool.
So shorts too.
Yes. Rainbow Trail.
There's still plenty of time to go and check out all of these films.
Okay, so then moving back to Chantal, same question. What is your hopes with Phoenix, and where do you see your career going?
Oh gosh, big question.
I know.
So hopes for Phoenix first. So we're looking at series for Phoenix.
Perfect.
Because it's kind of a stack between drama and sci-fi. Obviously, it's time traveling. I guess, seeing love stories in a different way. And we're creating the Bible for that now, and have actually been approached by a company that's looking at that now. And then in terms of myself, just continue producing at Ida Rose, but also direct. I've got one directing short to do, hopefully at the end of October if we don't go into lockdown, which is with a company called Mellow 9, and written by a gentleman called Adrian Scott. And it's about, he's doing a series on how technology has changed our way of life. And he's done a series of 8 shorts. He's written a series of 8 shorts, and I'll be directing one of those.
Amazing.
Very cool. Nice.
What sort of system are you using? Have you got all the 8 directors in place?
Well, I'm not actually producing this one. I'm literally just coming on directing, which is nice.
Yeah.
because it's just nice. I can just focus on the directing. And not starring either. So I think he's got different directors and different film crew for each episode. And I think they're about 3 minutes long. And I'll be directing one of those pieces. And then I guess with myself, I will be doing a new segment at the BFI, the London Film Festival next month, called Taking Black Writers Seriously. So I'm just doing some work producing for that, and I'll be filming it for the live streaming to go out to delegates for the London Film Festival also.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Busy, especially during this time, so it's really nice to hear this.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be busy, as every filmmaker is, whether it be, helping with the event stuff or, producing and directing. I'm just happy to be busy. It is a bit of a stickler with all of the COVID rules.
I know, Claire's sitting here coughing next to me. I'm like, oh my God.
I feel like I have to say, not COVID.
They are crazy at the moment, with the spacings and the amount of people and the temperature checks. And so this is, you know, a new kind of kettle of fish in terms of, I've done it for small short film over the last couple of months, but this is kind of a bigger event. So there is a lot to consider, but we're getting through it, and hopefully we won't go into lockdown and it gets done and shot.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Well, we'll see what Boris
Announcements
announces
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chantal. And then Oliver or Ollie, same question goes to you. Where is your career going? Are you going to be joining the Aardman team and creating the next Wallace and Gromit film, or what's the dream for you?
Well, I'm just happy working. This has been such a fun experience. So I've got, at least 2 more episodes in this series. I've got a treatment for the next episode. I really hope to be making more of these. So like in 5 years, by that time, I hope to have the feature by then. But the data that I'm looking at, suggests that I should continue to move forward with doing a series on
Absolutely.
this. So the next one's going to be on putting greens. And it's been exciting to see, this get traction and really to have the USGA and a bunch of different organizations in the golf industry really get behind this is exciting. With the golf industry, not one sport contributes more to charities than the golf industry.
Wow,
and
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it creates over 2 million jobs, and it's it's a 80 some odd billion dollar industry. And so if I can kind of connect the two between like the film world and in the golf world, I think it'll do a lot of good for the world, and to really just try to get people through this time, because it's the one sport that's able to really work and operate right now.
Yeah.
So, in 5 years, that's where I kind of hope to be making more films, but like sort of under the Starlo von Sourdough and Friends kind of thing.
Nice. Have a
so,
proper franchise.
I'd love, I would love to, be, I guess, like the next Walt Disney, the next kind of Aardman Studios. And so I'm just trying to work small right now, and really look at, just trying to get these 3 to go. And that's it. Yeah. So and build a great group, because it's a great opportunity to join in on this right now, as you can see.
Have you already started to think about merchandise then?
Yeah, that's one of the revenue streams. It's kind of an interesting thing, because you can do content advertising, whether it's sort of on the bumpers on the ends or padding, or product placement inside it, which is I can technically do even after this film, because it hasn't been released publicly, I guess, so to speak. So there's lots of opportunity in this one and in the future ones.
Yeah, I was just imagining walking into a golf shop and just seeing Starlo on t-shirts and the cap. Getting ready to go out and play some golf. But
yeah, so you can do surfing, baseball, all sorts of things. But
exactly.
There's definitely other stories I'd like to tell, but I got to earn the right to do that. So this is kind of the place where I'm trying to prove some talent.
Every sporting has its own organization, or every sport has its own organization that works with charities as well, and has their kind of honey pot which they use on other projects. So there's definitely something here for you.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you so much for this opportunity. This has been fantastic, by the way, too. So
thank you, all of you, for joining us.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking and understanding about your own individual goals and where your careers are going, and just hearing about the projects. It's so fun to do these, and every time we finish these conversations, I want us to continue writing our script and getting that done and getting that out into the world.
I think there'll be a lot here that people can definitely take on board. Very cool.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yes. Definitely.
And I look forward to seeing how your films are doing, not just in Los Angeles Liftoff, but also after and following your journeys.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
amazing. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the festival.
We will.
We will do.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye.
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 Honestly, there was lots and lots of cool advice
There
from every
was.
single one of those filmmakers then. A little bit of something for everyone within that stream.
Yeah.
Yes. So join us on Friday when we'll be doing our next roundup. And if you are taking part in the Los Angeles Little Film Festival, do make sure that you're in that chat room, because it could be you on here where we'll be interviewing and telling us your stories. So yes, that's how we choose our filmmakers. They take part in the live streams on Friday in the chat room, and then we pick 3 people from there. So that's how it is.
Enjoy the next few days watching all these amazing films on these programs.
Yes.
And we will see you on Friday.
Okay. Bye-bye.